Hello, guys. This is Bradley Grunner and Stu Yellen, and here we are today with our new podcast, number 7. And today's topic is gurus and wizards.
We don't have Rosh with us this evening, but we'll carry on as best we can, and hopefully this will be an entertaining one for you guys, as much as it's going to hopefully be entertaining for us to record it.
Yes, exactly. And it's a rainy day here in Queens, New York, so if you hear some rain in the background, it's because it's raining. So don't mind that. So today, as we said, we're going to just be discussing gurus. And perhaps we can call them wizards because that's what people think they are. People think that sometimes a guru is a magician, when really a guru is a bodybuilding coach. They are not magicians. They might be talented and have plenty of ingenuity, but let's just dive into it right now. Okay, now, Stu, where does the word guru come from?
Well, I'm not going to pull up an encyclopedia here and give you that, but the word, it certainly gets thrown around a lot these days. You'll see it in magazines. You'll see it online. I know one particular prep coach. He has a seminar, How to Be a Guru. I'm sure people don't particularly stop and think and say, all right, forget what guru means. Everyone throws the word around. Where did this even come from? I think we got to go back, and this is, Brad, I know we're old enough to remember Dan Duchesne, the original bodybuilding guru. This was one of the first guys, I think, who took it upon himself to be, let's call it a bodybuilding coach, a prep coach. A former, I'll say, a wannabe bodybuilder himself, never really did too well, but his knowledge of nutrition, his knowledge of performance-enhancing drugs really made him, I think, the go-to guy for a lot of aspiring, competitive, amateur, professional bodybuilders out on the West Coast. And the name of his company was like Guru something. I don't remember the exact name.
I think it had the word guru in it.
It had the word guru in it, yeah.
But let's go over, Dan Duchesne kind of, can we say that he revolutionized bodybuilding? I mean, he's really pretty much the first guy to come out and say, hey guys, steroids are a big important part of bodybuilding, and here's what they are, here are the names of them, here are the drugs being used, here's how much you are to use if you want them to be effective. I mean, I remember I read the Underground Steroid Handbook.
The guy, he literally wrote the book.
Yes, he wrote steroids. The book on steroids, yes. And he was also one of the guys who was really, can we say that, I don't know if we could say that he's some guy that would die for his sport because, okay, unfortunately he did pass away, but he didn't have anything that, he didn't have a condition that made him pass away related to bodybuilding per se. I don't think so.
I think it was genetic. Supposedly at some point in his life, he got in touch with like a sister he didn't know he had.
Yes.
Well, she got in touch with him, and by the way, his family didn't know he had.
Yes.
We have a disease that runs in our family, and
right. I think that's what it is, and I think that if I recall correctly, I mean, I really like the guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. I mean, I used to love his books. Even being a registered dietitian, I used to love, when I was still in school, I would read his books while I was still in school. And one of the books that I really liked that dealt with ketogenic dieting and low-carb dieting was Body Opus. And I loved the book. It was a good nutrition book, and it had a whole diet, and he went over high-fat diets, low-fat diets, and in the end, he discussed his Body Opus book. It was kind of like this cyclical ketogenic diet with some crazy carb up over the weekends, remember?
Yeah, I remember that. It was a good book.
Yeah, it was I don't remember it per se, because after a while, maybe I was just too young and didn't have the patience. Then I read it, maybe I wasn't have the intellect to absorb all of it, because it was a bit wordy for me. But wasn't it some crazy thing of like carbing up every hour or something throughout the entire weekend or something?
I don't have the book in front of me, but I recall at the time I first read it, I hate to use the expression flies in the face of something, but it was so not what you were typically reading if you were picking up muscle and fitness,
Right. Exactly. And, not to say that he would die for a sport, but he was the guy who was willing to, like, try anything. I remember he had these Ironman interviews and Ironman column. He basically was talking about not just steroids, but everything known to man to make a bodybuilder look better, he would be discussing, or to make an athlete better. I mean, really an edgy, daredevil sort of person. I don't really think that everything that he said was great or everything that he wanted to experiment. Because look, people, we all know that bodybuilding is a part of major, the IFBB pro bodybuilding on untested federations. This is what it is: drug use. He was really the guy who was willing to discuss everything and really to experiment with everything. I mean, what was that? The whole story, the crazy stories about him and John Romano having female bodybuilders as their guinea pigs, and
well, that was the thing they said. If you read, I mean, like Brad, you and I, we've probably read every book out there on the history of the sport, on nutrition, on training. These people were willing, I guess, I don't want to say to let him experiment on them, but they wanted success so badly that. Here's a guy with, let's face it, no medical degree, who I believe he created a fake university ID so he could get into the school library. I forget which college it was.
UCLA.
And he would pour through scientific journals and studies and look for anything he could find and find even a germ of an idea. How can I take this? How can I take this tiny little bit of information and apply it towards building the ultimate physique? And look, this was decades before 16, 17-year-old kids reading their muscle magazines online could pop onto PubMed and cite some studies and all that stuff. This guy was forerunner of all of that stuff.
Right, exactly. And now, before we no, actually, let's just go further. That's the guy who coined the guru term, or it was just applied to him. And now after that, I think we should get a little bit into this. Then there was, let's say the first other diet bodybuilding coach was Chris Aceto, maybe. He's pretty much the guy.
Well, I mean, I think we both know Aceto from coming up with all the magazines.
Yeah.
Duchesne, I just want to throw this out there so people don't think he's just like some crazy drug guy. He was the first guy, I think, to look at vanadium, which yielded vanadil sulfate,
exactly.
which was people were trying to do glucose disposal agents.
Yes.
Oh, that was groundbreaking. He was a big component of whey protein, which was being thrown out at the time.
Yes,
right? Wasn't that what was going on?
Yeah, he had a brand. I think was it his brand or was the There was that brand. I think it only put out whey protein. It was a company that only put Designer Whey. I don't know.
Designer Whey. Yeah.
I don't know if that was his product, maybe, but also that same company. I don't know if it was. But he also worked on Champion Nutrition with Michael Zampano, I think.
I remember him. Ultimate Orange.
Yeah, Ultimate Orange. Yes,
pre-workout thing.
Right.
That, and I'm never going to forget. I was a young kid at the time.
Yes.
There was, of course, I saw the warning on the side. If you are an athlete subject to Olympic drug testing procedures, do not take this product. And look, I was 20 years old. That's all I needed for me to buy it.
Right, exactly. But weren't there some, just as a side note, there were some wacky supplements out there that were like tainted with hormones. Where people thought they were like, let's say, hot stuff or something.
Well, no, that was the big thing. They said that the original hot stuff was spiked with real steroids.
With real roids.
Look, and I remember I wasn't into training in high school, but I remember friends of mine who were crazy into the stuff, and no one knew anything about nutrition back then. They just knew if you took this stuff,
yes.
They said your life would suck. You would be in the toilet nonstop, but you'd get jacked. And, when you're 17, that's all you care about. Yeah, I'm in the bathroom 5 hours a day, but I'm jacked.
Exactly. I think that's what my mentality was also. And guys, just so you know, I have taken steroids for a day in my life, and that was at 17 years old. No, that was the summer of 97 or 96 where I bought steroids on Northern Boulevard from a guy. I bought a bag of Dianabol. I took it. I think I took one tablet. My friend took one tablet. We did it for like 2 or 3 days, and I got scared, and I just sold it immediately because I was so scared. Well, that was a healthy fear, though, actually. So I actually said I took steroids for 2 or 3 days of my entire life.
Well, occasionally, Flex Magazine would run an article that would scare you.
Yes.
I'll never forget reading a few of these. There was one guy talking about like blood and pus coming out of his nipples, and I read that it was I guess my freshman sophomore year in college, and that was enough for me to think I don't want to bleed out my nipples.
Right, exactly. But that actually did happen. I bought it, used it for 2 days, got scared, sold it immediately, and never touched another anabolic in my life. But those were the days where you just hear things those are the days of like Hot Rocks, Designer Whey, Ultimate Orange, the Muscle Mag International magazine, so much great things that came out of that era. You know what I'm saying? When you were
I think that was the first, the point of the era where real science was starting to creep its way in. people that had no concerns other than looking, muscular in a bathing suit were starting to find their way into the science textbooks.
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, you mentioned Aceto before. Dude, I think Aceto has the longevity he has. He has the respect that he has because this is a guy with the real background, the real school credentials.
Yeah.
Who was a bodybuilder. Yeah,
he has a degree in nutrition. I'm positive he has an undergraduate degree in dietetics, nutrition, but let's just go through a timeline before we actually get into the meat of the topic. Is that I think that after Dan Duchesne, really the guys who were in the early '90s guiding people were, I think, Chris Aceto and Scott Abel. I really don't think. I mean, I don't know everybody. I don't know everything. I'm 36 going on 37 this month. Were there any other names back then? Like, I don't really remember who called. Maybe Chad Nichols?
Chad Nichols, I remember hearing that name a lot.
Yeah, but...
I mean, look, I don't have time frames on these people. Aceto was the guy who they had his articles in the magazines. We're talking like, Flex. No one was picking up the other magazines back then. Flex was the magazine if you were hardcore. And, I wasn't going to go out, 19, 18 years old and try to hunt down a very complicated college-level nutrition text. Not when Chris Aceto was putting out the 10 things I need to know for bulking up 1 month and the 10 things I need to know for cutting up the next month. And those articles were great. I cut them out. I put them in binders. I refer to them constantly.
Right, exactly. But I mean, just to reiterate, I mean, I think that really I was a big fan of Muscle magazine. I used to work in a Muscle Mag store in Garden City with my friend. And I used to watch all the training videos there all day. And being that I liked that magazine because it had like a funny spin on it. It had Greg Dulac writing a column with these whacked out. Remember Greg Dulac with these whacked out columns about kind of almost like the National Enquirer of the Venice Beach gym scene or what was going on in Canada with gyms. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? And
well, I mean, I think the whole magazine had a very Canadian slant to it.
Yes.
They'd be showing you bodybuilders and you think, they're not showing these bodybuilders in any other magazine. Like, what's going on?
Right. I remember and I mean, there were stories about, no, actually, that's right. They had a lot of coverage of Joe DeAngelis and some other NPC guys. Bruce Patterson was usually featured in that magazine. Well, he's Canadian, actually.
Hey.
Yeah, so, and then, they do say that. And, I'm just, giving a shout out to Chris Aceto and Scott Abel. That's who I remember being the big names. I think there was another guy named Pano Fragulis who used to train Chris Cormier. And then there was, what's the guy's name? The guy from Gold's Gym, Charles Glass? Charles Glass, yeah. Yeah, exactly. He was another guy.
Yeah, well, I don't know what he knows about nutrition.
Yeah, I don't know.
Supposedly he's the training guru.
Yes, exactly.
Thinking outside the box guy.
Yes.
He's John Meadows before John Meadows.
Exactly, yes.
He's John Meadows with dreadlocks.
Yes, exactly. And remember I bumped into him on the street actually one time when I was with my friend at the New York Pro one day, and some guy asked me, he said, hey, do you know what restaurants are open by this time? They're all closed in Tribeca. And I said to him, hey, you're Charles Glass, right? And, well, that was kind of, funny to just bump into someone asking me for directions to a restaurant in Manhattan. Anyway, okay, so let's just get into this. You're a WMBF pro. You stopped competing, but you are also I don't know if you like the word guru, but you are you're a bodybuilding coach. You're a nutrition contest prep coach. Contest prep coach, yes.
Yeah, no, you could call it like that. I mean, look, even when I was competing, that's the kind of thing that just started happening where I guess if you're the guy who starts winning a lot of shows and you're doing it on your own, people start coming to you, hey, help me, hey, help me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, it's funny. Look, you know me, Brad. It's like, despite, what I do professionally these days, I started off college pre-med. All the sciences. I took coaching classes because they were fun, took nutrition classes because they were fun. My brother was studying to be a DPT, so if there was like a CSCS, Certified Strength Training Conditioning coaching seminar coming up, I would just go with him for that. It's like, I was just amassing all this knowledge because it was just something I liked, not realizing that, wow, really building a pretty good, knowledge base for this. And I certainly hope this isn't turning into an ad for me here, but as my wife always pointed out, because when people would come to me, I would tell her, it's like, I feel I'm not the guy. Don't come to me. There's better people. And my wife would point out, like, look, you don't do as well as you've done in as many shows as you've done without knowing what you're doing.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess, that's how I kind of stumbled into this.
Yes, and I mean, the first question that we have here is who needs a guru? I mean, I am actually preparing for my first show ever. I've been, in the gym for quite some time, and I finally want to take this hobby, as seriously as you can get. I think this hobby or passion or whatever you call it can get pretty intense, and I just want to, I want to indulge in the hobby as much as I can before I have to take care of some other...
Grow up, be an adult?
Yes, until I have to start acting like a 36-year-old. And that will be when I have a kid and, a family and all that, and I'm, all those things that we have. But I for the time being, I have the time to do it and some of the resources, I want to do it now. And I think that, even being a registered dietitian, I mean, sometimes... Now, how do I put this? I don't want to put the average layperson down. Like, sometimes when I think to myself, someone says to me, Brad, could you help me lose weight? Can you help me show me how to eat right? I mean, sometimes I think that it's just common sense. Well, gee, you know what to eat, right? Most adults know what to not eat. They know how much they're overeating. Maybe they just don't have a concept of what they're actually eating. But when it comes down to dieting for a contest, this is not just about losing some weight, so to speak. This is about getting down to 5 to 7% body fat while retaining muscle mass, which is totally different than losing weight for the layperson. This is not like, someone who's carrying 50 pounds of fat wants to look attractive, wants to be in shape and improve their health, and you just simply portion control and you'll get there. That's it. You exercise 3 to 5 times a week, lift weights, do some cardio, play some ball games at the park, be a weekend warrior. You'll lose the weight. However, losing weight is not the same thing as getting in contest shape, and many guys completely underestimate how much weight has to be lost and what is supposed to be done to retain muscle mass while losing. After being lean, you think you're lean, now you got 25 pounds to lose while you're already lean by health standards. You still got 25 pounds to lose, and this has become a tricky game, and I think that it should take maybe a coach or at least friends. I mean, Lee Haney said he didn't have a coach, but I'm sure that he and his friends were assessing each other and passing on knowledge around in the gym to make sure that these people got through it.
Well, you see, that's a big thing. Before social media, where everyone who did one contest is suddenly saying, contact me for coaching, you needed to find people that had stood out and excelled, who had accomplished what you wanted to accomplish yourself. How do we put this? I didn't have a coach when I started this. And a lot of people will tell me, I remember they would give me crap online. Well, you didn't have a coach. Why do I need a coach? And it's not like I tell everyone they need a coach. Some people don't. Some people do, and that's fine. But I certainly had a very unique support system in that the people that I trained with were very, very keen as far as following the sport. They were very, very keen about not blowing smoke up my ass. My old training partner Corey, this guy was great. Everyone else in the gym would be telling me how great I looked, and Corey would just focus on what looked bad. And I remember someone said, "Why are you being a dick? Stu's getting ready for a show." And Corey's quote, and this was awesome: "Stu doesn't need another cheerleader. He doesn't need another cheerleader. If he wants to do as well as he can do, he needs someone telling him what he has to constantly focus on." And I took that with me, and that's how you get better. I always say, if people ask me about competing, if you are thin-skinned, if you can't do well with other people assessing you and, here's the word, judging you, comparing you to others, if you are going to take it as your sole net worth as a person is how you look, or how 7 people on a panel think you look, then do not go into the sport. You will be a broken, horribly upset, angry, depressed person.
Right, exactly. That's what you have to differentiate, because let's just say here, Stu, can we say something about this hobby or passion, whatever you want to call it, a passion or a hobby, a lifestyle? Let's be real here. How many bodybuilders who step on stage are going to be setting the bodybuilding world on fire? What, a fraction of a percent? So the way that I treat this from, maybe through maturity or just an intellectual way saying, hey, I got my life, I got my job, I got my friends. It's a hobby. I want to do my best, no doubt, train hard in the gym, diet as precisely as possible. But at the end of the day, even if you win a show, I mean, This is not a livelihood. This is no bodybuilder, unless you're at the top of the IFBB, and that's probably like what, 5 men on earth at any given time, Stu, right?
Yeah.
They could actually make yes, or even parlay that into a lifelong lifestyle, meaning like a lifelong livelihood, meaning Jay Cutler's retired, but being Jay Cutler is going to carry on with him for the rest of his life. He's already parlayed and leveraged so much of it, even besides his earnings from winning or sponsorships. The guy has parlayed it so much to the point where this is his profession forever. Now, how many common people are going to do that? Let's just say none. Can we just say none? I mean,
we could say none. Look, I mean, even the sponsorships.
Yes.
Okay? And I don't know if we're getting a little off topic here. The sponsorships are not going to the big bodybuilders anymore.
Yes.
They're going to the guys that look average.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to say average, but more men's physique, more attainable. I'll say that. The number of people going to this sport has probably diminished the payouts. I don't think the payouts for men's physique or even classic physique are, it's not a yearly income.
No, we saw the paycheck of a top guy one time.
Okay. Going back to the space out here, like the endorsement and stuff like that. With social media, you don't even need to do that. Right. Everyone wants to say they're a sponsored athlete. They'll work for free.
Yes.
They'll post stuff with a supplement company, this and this, 5 times a day, and say, use my discount code. That's not really income.
Exactly.
It's like, or even the YouTube channel.
Right.
The views. What are you making? A couple $100 a month? Seriously?
Right.
That's not something to strive for.
Right. I mean, the guys who have the YouTube lockdown now, guys like Rich Piana or Mike Chang, they have millions upon millions of views. And I don't even think they rely on YouTube as a source of income solely. I mean, they might use YouTube as a platform, but they have clothing companies and supplement companies that are doing very well. Maybe equipment or supplement companies, like writing diets. They don't just use YouTube primarily.
Well, let me tell you. I mean, if people are smart, there are gurus out there telling you how to make money on social media.
Yes, exactly.
But I'll tell you, and we've spoken about this before. There are the people that got into social media when it first started.
Yes.
And they pretty much made a nice big dent of cash for themselves. And now it's like everyone else is kind of scurrying along like 10 years later after the fact.
Right. I mean, I think the same thing with ebooks as well. I don't, the whole like slew of ebooks that were around in the early to mid 2000s. I think that is. I think it's tapped out somewhat also.
Totally tapped. Look, I wrote an ebook. You know what I did? I put it online for 99 cents because it was advertising. And then after a week, I made it free.
Right, exactly. And plus, hardly anybody reads anymore. So, I mean, with the amount of information available, I think that actually, with more information available and less of an attention span, and less, this is important with discussing a guru.
Oh, it's very important.
This is important. Meaning that my view is this. Look, I'm not the best built guy in the world, but I have some, my physique is available for you to see on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You've seen my other videos where I expose my physique on YouTube. I got nothing to hide. I'm not the best built guy in the world. However, I did come to my physique today, which I'm pretty happy with, or my strength levels, or I'm not the strongest guy in the world or best built, but like, okay, I did it. How did I first do it? I saw a book. I read the book. I applied what I saw in the book. Did I have to learn how to do a squat perfectly? Did I have to read, and no disrespect to Mark Rippetoe, did I have to read 100-page chapter on the squat till I finally said to myself, let me go to this gym and squat? No, I put a bar on my back and I tried to do as best as I can. And then through time, people showed me how to do it better. Then I met Jim Wendler one day at a seminar. He said, dude, you're squatting not bad per se, but do this. See how much better your squat will be. Boom, right there. Deadlift, bench press. People tell me, like, this is the way to do it. But how come now no one knows how to do anything without someone telling them this? Or you could even say, dude, look at this article. This is a good cookie cutter beginner's article. Follow it. It's written for them. It's written. Follow the freaking program. What is your problem? Now, this is where it comes from, is that maybe this day and age people do need a guru. They do need it because people seem incapable of following instructions. Written instructions especially. What do you think of that?
Well, I think, all right, I know we were going to talk about this anyway.
Yes.
How, not even just like amateurs, people competing for the first time.
Yes.
Anyone who follows the IFBB, who follows professional bodybuilding, you've seen what we jokingly call, guru hopping.
Yes. We're going to get into that topic right now. Yes.
You have guys at the top of the sport, guys placing top 10, top 5 in the Olympia. They don't do as well as they like, or someone else does better. I got to change coaches.
Yes.
I got to have someone else telling me what to do. Now, is that an honest self-assessment for them is that come from a deep-seated psychological, I don't know what to do, someone else is going to always know better and I feel better with someone else in the driver's seat. I mean, look, this could be a very, very healthy thing. This could be a very, very, I don't want to say unhealthy thing, but certainly not from the healthiest place.
Right, exactly. Now, that also ties into the guru hopping comes into the topic of faith in the guru. Okay, listen, all these guys are experienced. Shelby Starn is experienced. Chris Aceto is experienced. Chad Nichols, I don't think he coaches anymore. Scott Abel still coaches, I believe he does. Dante Trudello,
Strudel?
You said that.
I said it.
Dante Trudell, who is basically not a contest prep coach. He owns a supplement company, but he came up with a dog crap training. People go to him to gain size. Now, I think his program is good. I mean, it's a good low volume program. I think it's very simple, but if they need to go to him to follow it, fine. Who else is around? I said Scott Abel. I like his articles a lot.
Look, are we sticking the IFBB? Because, I mean, they're, look, you got Lane Norton.
Lane Norton, exactly,
athlete.
Yes.
You got Eric Helms and his whole 3D, whatever it is. What's his name? Jason Theobald. I've always read his stuff online. Very knowledgeable guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that
the natural
know
guys.
Stuff.
Ryan Sullivan. Coached some natural pros, and he was a natural competitor. I think I'm not sure if he turned pro, but he's another guy who deals with a lot of people from Long Island, Suffolk County area, and they're all pretty good. But if they're all pretty good, each one of them has their winners. Each one of them has their pros, or each one of them has guys that look really good. So they know what they're doing. So if they all know what they're doing, what would cause someone to guru hop if each and every one of them has the expertise? Why would I go to a bunch of people who have the expertise? You know what I'm trying to say? I mean,
well, I'll tell you, that's something I think I said this on Instagram months ago, and I thought I was going to get more crap from this than I did. If anyone is knowledgeable about training, nutrition, or no matter what the case may be,
posing,
or even PEDs.
Yes.
They're all working with the same information. Information. And something I know Arash pointed out, this is a few weeks ago, he said, when you hire a coach, you're not just going for the knowledge, you're going for their experience.
Yes.
And, Arash has been in the game a long time. Someone who's competed for a long time, you're obviously getting a lot more out of that.
Yes.
You have your coach with you backstage. You have your coach texting you nonstop. You can call this guy up anytime. It's like, things like that when you're going through a prep. And let's face it, I know I was just telling you this earlier. You're doing stuff your body doesn't want to do.
Right, exactly.
Okay? You're asking more of it. You're giving it less food. The mental stress is there nonstop because you're trying to pretend you're not doing this while you're going about your regular life.
Right, exactly.
It's stressful. So the idea that someone else is constantly reassuring you, reaffirming things, that's great.
Yes.
It's great. I got one client, he knows that I'm in my car every day at 6:30. He calls me every day at 6:30.
That's good.
That's great.
Yes, but I think also some people, again, I'm not here to bash people. I'm not a perfect guy. I'm not perfectly disciplined, but do you think some people just have a problem following directions? They just can't follow direction. Do you ever encounter that?
Well, as a former college professor, I could totally say that, but it'd be mean to do so. No, it is. No matter how simple you try to make things, okay. And I think any good teacher. When I say teacher, I mean someone who instills knowledge. It doesn't have to be like at a school. Any good teacher has to be able to break things down into a manageable piece and make them understandable.
Right.
Now, some people are better than that than others. Some people are more active learners, meaning, I'm really paying attention. I'm really focusing on what you're saying. Other people, you're explaining something to me, Brad, but in my head, I hear the Simpsons theme right now. Okay?
Yes.
And, something like contest prep. Contest prep is juggling 16 balls while riding a unicycle downhill. Oh, and you're on fire.
Yes.
Okay? That's a lot of variables and stuff that you're trying to manage. And you focus on one, that's when the other thing you lose track of. You focus on this, and oh wait, I forgot what I was doing. there's a lot going on here.
Right, exactly. And, we could even think that even in the pro ranks, IFBB Pro, I mean, I follow natural bodybuilding. I'm going to do a natural show, but you don't really hear stories about these soap operas in this subculture. There are a lot of soap operas in pro bodybuilding I would talk about, meaning like it's almost like taking on like a professional wrestling twist to it almost, what I'm trying to say?
Well, I mean, if we're going to come to the hopping.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I want to discuss the people that have done it.
I mean, look, all right, let's throw the first names that come to mind with me. And, throw out Dennis Wolf.
Yes.
I like Dennis Wolf.
Yes.
Hey, Dennis Wolf is a tall man with certain muscular insertions that, even though the guy's been training for a long, long time, those insertions don't help him when he stands next to shorter bodybuilders.
Yeah, calves with the high lat insertions.
High lat insertions. Now, this is a guy very large.
Gifted, yeah.
Very good conditioning. I've seen shows where he's unquestionably one of the most conditioned guys on stage. He's gone through a bunch of different coaches and gurus.
Yes.
Hoping that there's always going to be someone out there with a better idea. Now, in my opinion, totally my opinion, it's just a matter of each year you get a little better.
Yes.
Each year you get a little better. Now, I hate to point out the obvious, because I'm not digging on Wolf. I think he's a great bodybuilder. He really is. I think he is definitely underrated a lot of times. But, I always said that the one thing you can't control in terms of prep or training and this and that is time. And that's the thing that people overlook all the time.
Right.
Each year you get a little bit better until such point as you actually start to, get worse.
Yes, which we've seen as some body.
Oh, we've seen, but that's another show.
Yes, exactly. When things start, you just stop responding with your natural or
unnatural.
What do you say?
Unnatural.
Oh yeah, or unnatural, assisted or natural. The body just changes as you get older. I mean, I understand that bodybuilding is a little different. I don't particularly like to call bodybuilding a sport, but for lack of a better word, let's just call it a sport or endeavor or show. It's sometimes called an old man sport because you can maintain it into your late 30s or early 40s, unlike some other things. I mean, you don't find 35-year-old sprinters or 40-year-old sprinters. You do not find Olympic athletes at this age. So it's something that you could really stick to for a long time, but eventually things just don't go the way you want to anymore. The regression in the physique is evident, as we've seen from several pros. But besides Dennis Wolf, who I think is great and just like enormous, I mean, just unbelievably gifted in the muscle building department and getting shredded as well. I remember Olympia you and I were watching 3 years ago when he was shredded to the bone. He had the gaunt look on his face, and even when he was in his sweatsuit, we're like thinking to ourselves that guy's conditioned this time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And from his face, and who else has jumped? Kai Green jumped.
Well, Kai's been look. There's a there's a whole docudrama waiting to be made there.
Well, yes. First, it was with Oscar, and what's Oscar's last name again?
Oscar Arden.
Yes, and then also
that was an interesting thing because everyone always talked about how Oscar basically raised him like a child.
Yeah,
all the psychological stuff, which I got to say, it makes you wonder. And I don't know Kai.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know Kai. I've worked with people. I've known people who are psychologically. I don't want to use the word fragile, but need a lot of coddling. You're a grown man, you're a large, muscular, scary-looking but inside you're like a broken 8-year-old.
Yes.
And I always got the impression that it's like Kai really needed someone holding his hands, constantly reaffirming everything. So I remember when he left Oscar, the gossip. Oh, why is he leaving Oscar?
Yes. Then he went to George Farah.
I don't know if there was someone between there, but that was like a big thing, him going to George Farah. Because Farah's got his own stories going on there.
Yes. Well, okay. And then he was with George Farah into a certain Olympia, and then there was the debacle. Let's just talk guru hopping here. Talk about hopping from from one guru to the next in the same building.
Well, I mean, for the people that don't know, he had, he was, I guess on paper, being coached by George Farah, but supposedly behind the scenes being coached by someone else, throughout Ron Norman.
Yes.
And like some old TV sitcom, Kai had paid for 2 different hotel rooms. He had 2 coaches in different rooms. you know, he had one telling him one thing, and then he'd run to the other. You know, what should I do? And he's telling him something else, and oh, Jesus Christ! It's like you're a grown man. You've been doing this since you were 16.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, now, and look, it's not like Kai doesn't know how to train or how to eat, but is it that deep? I don't trust myself, or I need someone else to blame if this goes wrong, or I don't know where it comes from.
Right. And the thing is also, which I try to remain objective about this when reading, you know, this gossip that, look, we discussed on other podcasts, this gossip, look, even people who are not into gossip are amused by gossip. You know what I'm trying to say?
It's
always
amusing.
It's always like, you know, what's my neighbor doing? You know, even people that are usually keeping themselves are like, hey, what's that guy doing, right? But I mean, I don't know what the purpose of it was when you're that deep into Olympia prep. When you're in Las Vegas already. Mm-hmm. The show's there. Why would you continue to juggle two people when the show is that day? I mean, they have texts of him. Look, and we're not saying anything bad about anybody here. We're just using the information that we got. Is that remember on RX Muscle? They were like, Dave Palumbo was actually showing the text that Ron Norman received. Remember that whole debacle?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. But you know, I mean, look, what a lot of people were thinking.
Yes.
You know, this is when Muscular Development Magazine had a lot of people on. What are they on staff? Are they contributors? Call them whatever you want to call them. You know, they had their names there, whether Ron Harris was writing their columns or not.
Yes. Okay, Ron Harris.
But I think Kai was probably with the magazine, and
yes.
George was probably with the magazine.
Yes.
And, you know, it probably was great business for the magazine to have them both under contract.
But here's the thing. Let's just this is interesting as well. We have two guys with two very different views on dieting. I mean, when you go into a prep, mm-hmm. I think you should discuss with your guru or your coach first. What's your style? You a low carb guy? You a high carb guy? How are you going to handle me? What can I handle? What kind of, you know, if a guru or a coach is not, let's say, well versed on a variety of approaches, should you go to him? Meaning that you have Ron Norman, who is very more like a paleo guy and very into low carb dieting, and I like Ron a lot. You know, I respect him. I'm, you know, pretty much acquainted with him. He's a longtime friend of my family. He's my uncle's childhood friend. He knows my whole family actually. So I mean, with that said, he does stick to he sticks to what his approach is. Then he goes to George Farah, who is the complete opposite, who adds no fats to the diet, who just like, you know, high carbs, protein. That low carb thing does not exist with George Farah, I believe. Was that a good move to go to these two guys that were so diametrically opposed?
Well, I'll tell you what's really interesting is, you know, like you said, you start out a prep with one approach, you know, and I can see arguing both ways. Why change right at the end if that was working? And that is indeed if it was working, you know? I mean, I work with, you know, assisted guys and I work with natural guys. And there are times where, you know, I have an athlete we worked together last year, the year before, and this year things aren't going the same way this year. Where something's working really good for 4 weeks and then suddenly, whoa, what's going on here? And, you know, you got to be able to juggle things. You got to be able to keep one step ahead. You got to be able to have options. But like you said, at that point, he's at the Olympia.
Right.
He's at the Olympia.
Yeah.
I know it's a 2-day show. What are you doing?
What could be done at that point? What could be done?
Well, I mean, I think obviously at that point we're getting into discussing pharmaceuticals a lot more than anything else.
Yes.
You know, and look, that's certainly not my area of expertise. I don't want anyone thinking that it is.
Right, but you know another guy also that guru hopped a bit, right?
Well, yeah, I don't want to drop a name. You know, it's a guy I've known for a while, but you know, there was one guy we were at the New York Pro, you know, a few weeks back with Arash, and there was someone that, you know, he had been training with someone, very very well known coach, prep guy for, I want to say, at least a year. Made all these improvements, very very well documented on Instagram and Facebook, and then like, was it a week out, 2 weeks out, switches coaches. The new coach actually posted something online, which then that caused a whole stir. And it's like, what? You know, it's like you said, it really is this crazy, crazy drama. And does it come back to, again, an insecurity on the part of the athlete, honestly thinking that's going to make a huge difference? Or is it just some subconscious need to be able to say, well, I didn't make the decisions if things don't go as well as they'd like?
Right, exactly. And there's that also. The kind of almost blaming the guru type thing?
You know, you don't see a lot of it these days, but it's been done.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
been done.
Yes, I've heard it been done. Also, I've heard of that
I remember
as well.
guys writing very publicly about it in magazines like over a decade ago. Well, so and so told me to do this, and really, like,
Right, but could we also say from your experience, you're the guy who would know, I wouldn't know. Could we say also that a guru is not a magician? Meaning that even if you try to do everything perfectly, everything was right, you couldn't have done anything else, the body just doesn't respond the way you want it to every single time. Could we say that also?
Oh, I think that's a very realistic and a very intelligent thing to state. I think anyone who believes otherwise, they're fooling themselves and they're overestimating, overstating their own abilities.
Exactly, because even the best will not show up in the same condition year after year all the time either. I mean, is there a bodybuilder that ever did? I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, I always tell people that there are certain intangibles, certain things that was it the fly in the ointments that you tend to overlook. I stayed late at work the other day and I didn't sleep all night, and then I was stressing about it, and didn't realize my cortisol levels went up. Now I'm retaining water, and I don't think I've lost weight in 3 weeks. But then what happens? Oh, we jack the carbs up a little bit. We lower the cardio. We take 2 days off from training. And suddenly you drop 5 pounds overnight. Well, yeah, we don't know what caused that, but luckily we were able to work it out. And we may never know what caused that.
Right, because the body's not a machine. Because even if we look at the best bodybuilders in the world, let's say Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates. Well, Dorian was always shredded. I don't know, was one of those people who was in.
Dude, he came and shredded the year they tested for diuretics.
Yeah, I mean, he was just shredded year after year. But let's talk realistically here. Besides Dorian Yates, you look at the top guys even from the '90s. They didn't look the same mint condition every single year. I mean, I don't even think Ronnie
Sean Ray was pretty good.
Yeah, but I don't even think Ronnie came in the same mint condition every year. Do you? I mean,
the guy went from what was it? He had his first win was. Was it 250, 240?
Something like that, yes.
And then his heaviest win was, I believe, the official scale weight was 297.
Yeah, and
dude,
yeah,
you're not getting that same crispness.
No.
And even Ronnie said his best look was 98.
Right, exactly. And that's a whole other topic in itself, as well as, peaking or, other looks you want to go with. So with that said, when you were talking before about loss of objectivity, what were you referring to?
Well, I mean, if I guess if you're prepping, if you're coaching yourself, it can mess something with your head like you wouldn't believe. You look in that mirror every day, and you're used to seeing yourself, 220 pounds, and now you're down to 200. Oh my God, your clothing's not fitting the same way. When I used to get ready for a show, every female coworker would be like, "What's going on with your cheeks? I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't look healthy." Well, you got used to me weighing, 2 something, and well, now I'm down to 190, and it's going to look a little different. I mean, look, that's the price you pay. You want veins running through your serratus, your cheeks are going to sink in a little bit.
Well, do you mean objectivity mean that you have to deal with the negative criticism? Negative constructive criticism, or as well as just people telling you that you look a certain way and you have to just block it out?
Well, I tell you, there's certainly both. There's certainly
Okay.
both. And even just the stuff that comes from yourself. I was training in the gym for 15 years before I ever got on stage. I was used to looking a certain way. I was used to my clothing fitting a certain way. I figured I'd get on stage, I'd weigh this. No, I reached that weight. I'm not stage ready yet. All right, I'm going to go. I'll probably be 10 pounds less on stage. Reach that weight. Oh, still not shredded yet. All right, we're going down another 10 pounds. I got on stage 20 pounds less than what I thought I was going to for my first show.
Exactly.
Now, dude, I'm shredded to hell. I mean, I looked awesome. I love those photos from that first show. I could have used more size, and, I fixed it over the years. But getting down to that point, oh, my God, that messed up my head. That really messed up my head. I wasn't a guy who competed in the 170s. I was 215 pounds. I was a big dude.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you something. In those photos, I still look pretty big. Throwing on my extra large T-shirt after the show, like, wow, what's going on here?
Or even maybe a large might have fit a little bit. Yes. Well, that's a whole other topic as well as what weights are unnatural comes in at usually. It's far lower than people expect naturals to come in.
And we could do a whole thing on
Yeah,
expectations versus reality. Yeah.
Exactly. And let's say, just get it out there. Also, the expectations of a drug-aided person, depending on how much they're on, versus a natural, is worlds apart. Could we say that?
I think we could definitely say that.
Okay, let's just get that out there. Get the message out there while we're discussing this guru topic, and so now there's the last topic of people depending on a guru for a placing per se, meaning that, let's say you have this famous guru or bodybuilding coach, whatever term you want to use, it kind of serves as a motivation, meaning that, I'm training with this guy, this guy trains, this guy's a trainer of champions. I'll be a champion too. I'm going to be a champion bodybuilder. I'm training with him. This guy has all the answers. But again, we're not working with a magician here. Like you said before, we're all working with the same information. Maybe like little different approaches to keep you in a caloric deficit, but really they're just little tricks that might give you an edge. But when you add it all up at the end of the day, most experienced people who have been bodybuilding or coaching bodybuilders for decades are working with the same information. They might have, like, let's say, little different approaches to help you stay in line, but it's not going to guarantee you a placing, right?
Well, I guess, look, it's not going to guarantee you a placing, but let's face it, the way the sport is these days, can being a sponsored athlete of a company that is a main sponsor of a big contest get the judges to look at you right away? I think it possibly could. Can the fact that you're working with a trainer, a well-known, well-respected, well-publicized trainer or coach who has articles in the magazines, who works with all the top guys, who the judges all really like, and who you're constantly making known to everyone via every social media outlet you have, is working with you, kind of get people to, look here when you walk out on stage? I think it can. I mean, again, we're dealing with human beings here. Look, I judge shows now, and there are times where a guy comes out on stage, and the first thing I think is, hey, I remember that guy, because I remember him from a few years ago.
Right.
Just something has nothing to do with his physique, just I'm a human being. Hey, I remember that guy. Hey, he looks better than he did. That's cool. So if anyone thinks, well, the judges remember how you did last time is crap, no, they do. They're people.
Right. Now, this might be a little bit of one of those topics where, we're pushing the little edge here maybe in our discussion. Do you think some gurus got a pro card from their popularity as a guru?
Well, there have been comments online when well-known coaches have not won a pro card to the effect of he's paid his dues already. And, you can like a coach, a competitor. You can respect them. You can honestly go, he'd be fun to hang out with. Bodybuilding side, he's a cool guy. But, you got to respect the sport for what it is. You got to respect that it's a competition. You got to respect that everyone gets up there and they've all busted their butt. They've all suffered. They all are, they're fighting tooth and nail. They want that win. And to give it to someone because, well, he's been competing a long time.
Or because he coached someone. You see, the coaching is his business.
Well, no, I understand that. Look, there are plenty of guys that are well known and never turn pro.
Right.
And then you have guys where I don't know if I should even get into this, who had a video series on a very popular channel, and then that channel was the main sponsor of a show, and they did a video series of him getting ready for the show, and then he won the show, even though he had not turned pro in the previous 30 years.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to drop that name because that'll bite me in the ass.
Right, I don't even know who it is. I don't even know what you're referring to, but
it's probably better.
Okay. Okay.
Now you know. I just wrote it down. Now you know.
Okay. Now, okay, that was kind of funny. Excuse me while I stutter a bit. Exactly. We have to, look at it, who's being judged up there and who the better bodybuilder is, not who is a coach and a bodybuilder. I think that most coaches, if you look at it, they're kind of like they fit that mold of the frustrated jock, so to speak. Maybe even the frustrated bodybuilder. I mean, like, let's say Ben Johnson, one time his coach, most people know who Ben Johnson is if you're like around my age, maybe not younger, but Ben Johnson was this famous sprinter who had a coach named Charlie Francis, who was a very great track coach. But again, Charlie Francis was not the big Olympic name that Ben Johnson was. And Charlie Francis said that most coaches are frustrated jocks, meaning they're good, they're really good, solid at what they do, and that forced them to look at the sport or bodybuilding in a way that someone who's gifted didn't have to. I mean, yes.
Well, I was going to say at a certain level, no matter how much anyone wishes it wasn't the case, genetics come into play.
Yes.
Genetics come into play. I think Lane said, and this was pretty good, he said that the best coaches are usually the guys without the best genetics who just barely managed to turn pro.
And love this. They really love it.
But they really, despite not the best genetics,
yes.
And I'm not saying that bad genetics, I'm saying
good.
Not the best, had to fight tooth and nail to get where they were. When I got my WMBF pro card, and that was my second pro card. I was damn proud of that. I told my wife, I'm like, there's not going to be any more trophies. Why? Because I was realistic enough. I've been to enough shows. I knew who I'd be competing against. And again, at a certain level, everyone knows how to diet. Everyone knows how to train. Everyone knows they've figured their body out because they've been doing this at least 10 years to build that amount of size and that density, that muscle maturity that you need. At that level, it's genetics. Who's got the nicer structure, and that's just the roll of the dice. And you can delude yourself as much as you want, but that's a very, very important factor at the top levels.
Right, because I also think of what Nasr said, and Nasr was a very abrasive person. Could we use the word abrasive or just callous? I mean, I like them a lot, but
I think abrasive is a good word.
Okay, he would say things. He said something in an interview. One of those guys. Remember, he had this series of interviews that were like freaking crazy. Like,
he said he was going to put out a book.
Like, yeah, I really wanted the book actually because I really liked Nasr. What?
I would have. I know, but I got Flex Wheeler's book for a penny.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I really loved Nasr. I think he was one of the best bodybuilders that ever lived. But then again, he was kind of a jerk, can we say? I mean, yeah. I'm one of his biggest fans, though. Let me get that out there before I just call him that. But I was a fan regardless. He said that for many people, that after you turn pro, it's the end of the line. I mean, that you turn pro, now it's done. People are just too much better. That's it. And we could even see that even Shelby Stearns publicly announced saying, hey, this is good what I'm going to do. I love bodybuilding. I love what bodybuilding did for me. Now I make a living from bodybuilding as far as, coaching other people, being a nutritionist. But it's over with the wins. Not think he went over with the wins, but, it's not going to be the same anymore.
No, dude, the level's completely different.
Yes.
It's such a different playing field. And again, if you think otherwise, you're deluding yourself.
Right. Okay, folks, so that wraps it up. And I hope you found this podcast informative. Wait. Did I say find it informative?
Yeah.
And I hope that you took in everything we had to say. And
discussing our wizards and gurus.
Exactly. And, make the appropriate decision when you find a guru. Let's just do some bullet points here. Choose the guru that's best for you. I mean, find out what this guy's approach is, this woman's approach is, what their track record is. Are they really knowledgeable about nutrition as a whole? Could they do a different variety of approaches with you, whether it's low carb or something that fits into your lifestyle? And then once you have this person, you feel good with them, just go along the way through with it. Because after a point, can't change gurus when it's already done.
Yeah, let's say you can't change your horse midstream.
That's it.
Boat midstream. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something midstream. Don't cross the streams.
Yeah. So, all right. Catch us next time. Thank you for everybody that listens or signed up to my channel. I appreciate it. Leave comments if you want. Peace.